Great. Okay, we are recording and we're gonna go through the admin and user profile pieces of Catalyst. So I'm logging in and keeping in mind that the login that I've just used is actually an admin profile. So you don't even get to see that. That happens at the behind the scenes level when somebody creates an account for somebody else. We will look at the setup there. But the admin or administrator user ID has access to things that a user does not, even regardless of privileges that you'll give a user in the user profile. So this admin account has just logged in, and to keep it pretty simple, we've called it the admin administrator, so we know. And as a reminder, if you don't already know this, a CSA, Catalyst System Administrator, is not the same per se as an administrator account in Catalyst. I know it's confusing. Catalyst System Administrator is a term we use to designate somebody as being the go-to person at an organization for Catalyst. It doesn't necessarily mean they have an administrator account in Catalyst. That's something that has to be set up. And generally speaking, that's what we want. We want CSAs to have an administrator account. I just want to make sure people recognize that it's not an automatic and they're not the same thing. Very confusing, so let me know if there's questions. So I'm logged in now, and I'm going to go to the admin menu, and under admin menu, I've got a couple of options: administration, merge clients, and user profile. We're not going to look at the merge clients today, but I'll just point out that that is a function available to administrators only. There are certain features in Catalyst that only administrators have access to. Merging clients is one of them. It has significant consequences, so we want only certain accounts having access to that. So actually, I'm going to start with the user profile. So I've logged in, and I'm going to my user profile by clicking user profile and then edit view user info. As an administrator, I can do some other user account pieces. I can add and I can edit after searching for an account. But in this case, I'm going to do my own. So that's the edit view user info. So that anybody who wants to edit their own account, that's where they would go. So I can change my password here. I will have to type in my current password and then create a new one. Noticing here, my user type is administrator. I'm not going to change that, but you can see I could also be a user. My name here, if I wanted to change it, I can. The user ID is set. You can never change a Catalyst user ID. Whatever it is set up as is what it is. We used to get a lot of people saying, hey, I've changed my name, I'm married now, I'd like to change my user ID. It doesn't work that way. It's your unique identifier, and you can change the name that appears when you log in, but the user ID is different. And then email address, that's the one on file for changing your password, so that's an important piece. We want users to have a valid email on file so that if they need to reset their password, they can. The default daily work hours, not required, but this is where in the activity log, we recently had somebody saying, hey, my work hours are going over, I'm scheduling too many. It really doesn't matter. This is more if you're using the activity log as a scheduler. I don't know too many agencies that are, so I don't feel there's a lot of value in understanding that, but I'm just pointing out that's what's there. And the same for active client capacity and waitlist capacity. This has to do with you as a user being attached to those profiles in the activity log and the waitlist, but again, I don't believe it's overutilized. Language preference, if I were to change this to French, everything will appear in French in Catalyst. So that if anybody ever needed a French account, that's how you would do it. An account expiry date, don't recommend you put that in, but if you've got somebody maybe joining for 6 months, a contract, and you just wanted to set this to expire after a certain date, you could do that. And then what will happen is their account will become inactive. I could certainly inactivate an account right now. I go in and I click inactive account. then it's no longer accessible. People can't log in. It would take another administrator to fix it. This is somebody playing around custom fields. We don't need to put any of that in, but in the case of another organization, if they had any custom fields they wanted to include, they could. I don't see how this would be of any significance. It doesn't go anywhere or do anything. It's just something they can see when they log in. So anything I changed, I would click save. I didn't actually do anything here, so I'm not going to save. I'm going to go to user privileges. This is where I can actually set up what my profile has access to, for example. The activity log, you can set it so that you can use the activity log for your own account. You can also set it to access other users' activity logs. So maybe you're the admin at the agency and you need to be entering other users' activities. This is the privilege. You need to be able to do that. Referrals, you can make external referrals, and then programs. Now this is a test database, so of course there are several. This is where you would need to have privileges though to be able to put a client into a particular program. So whenever we add a program for an agency, it's important that they go in and edit any profile that needs access to that program. So for example, if I had just added the ABC program, when the admin goes into user profiles, they're going to see this. It's not going to be selected by default. They'd have to go in and select that. So it then becomes available in the drop-down list. So I'm going to scroll down. You can see there are a lot of programs listed. And then we get into the activities. So again, these are privileged. If an organization adds a new activity, then they would have to give users access or privileges to those new activities. We don't really care about activities. We care about the activity type. So that's what's in the bracket. So they could add 50 direct face-to-face activities, but they get rolled up for us. So yeah, they have access to adding activities to their setup and then giving privileges to those activities. I'm going to scroll down. A lot of activities, I think way more than most agencies. And then we get into the system modules. So this is sort of the heart of the user privileges. So of course, you want to be able to see programs, you want to be able to see activities, but then the system modules are what can the user do in Catalyst. So we have the option of can view, can edit, can delete. And then there's a couple of add-ons for a couple of the modules. But for the most part, it's about the viewing, editing, and delete privileges. So if I wanted to be able to even see the client information screen, I have to have can view privileges. If I wanted to be able to make any edits on the screen, I need to have the can edit. And if I wanted to be able to delete a record from that particular module, I need the can delete privilege. So as the administrator, I've given myself privileges to everything, but keep in mind if somebody didn't have those privileges, even though they are an administrator, that won't work. So for example, if I didn't have can delete privileges for client information, on the client information screen, it would look the same as it normally does, except there'd be no button when I wanted to delete a client's information. Put that back on. Now, can purge, that's a new feature. I don't think it's been released. I think that's why that's not selected. Does anybody know? I'm just gonna stop the training for a second. Does anybody know about the purge module, where we're at?
I was looking into it. Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I was looking into it because I was supposed to be testing it, but apparently, like, some agencies have already tested it. So
Okay.
I don't know where we're at with it, but if you can't click that right now, it's because in the agency preferences, you have to set
Okay.
like
Right. Okay.
number.
We'll
Yeah,
look
there
at
was
that
only
in
a
a second.
couple that we tested with, and it seemed fine, but I think there was some bug that came out later with one of the test agencies. So I think
Okay.
that's why Hannah's doing like a second round, and then eventually they'll release.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we'll look at the preferences in a minute when we get into administration, and then we'll turn that on and we can come back here. Okay, so then we're going to just, I mean, these are all really the same. These are the different screens within Catalyst: admission, program, referral, incoming referral, outgoing, discharge, waitlist, group, supplementary form. I'll just explain it because I don't know if everybody's aware of what that is. There was an initiative from the ministry where they wanted to see specific information for a couple of initiatives. There was the opioid crisis as well as assisted housing, ASH, supportive housing. So there were 2 supplementary forms created in Catalyst, and certain agencies were given access to those. And so that's what these are here. They have access to being able to use those. Now the administration module, this is where even if you are an administrator, if I take off privileges, I can go in and view administrative privileges, but I won't be able to do anything. So you, as an administrator, you want to make sure you have those. But on the flip side, if you give a user administrative privileges, they will have access to things they probably shouldn't. They can come in and edit people's profiles, for example. And maybe you want that, but it's just something to keep in mind. I remember when I first started and I was setting up in-practice database accounts, and I was giving them administrative privileges, and they were going and doing stuff, and it's like, oh no, I don't need them to be doing that. So I learned the hard way that you don't want to do that for necessarily for all accounts. Reports, you definitely want that on if they're going to try and run reports. This doesn't give them an account. Keeping that in mind, we still need to have a report account for anybody who wants to run reports, but it's kind of a 2-step thing. They still need to have privileges to be able to do that. Treat, it's going away. Sorry, go ahead.
We have to, like, they have to click on can view here for reports?
Yes.
And then, like, so do this first and then ask us to actually create the report
Yes.
accounts.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes. You're welcome. Treat, it's going away, but if they were to use that tool, they would need access here. Case notes, so this one's a little bit different because we have the can view, can edit, can delete, and then there's also the author. So if they wanted to be an author of case notes, they would need that privilege. And then OCAN, we've got a couple of weird ones here. We've got consumer info, staff, and self. I'm not that clear on what all of these are, to be honest. There's probably a KB about OCAN, but I'm not that familiar with OCAN. I'm guessing this is where they can self-administer the tools. So once the clinician, for example, has opened OCAN into another window, yeah, I'm not sure on what those are. So we'd have to learn more about that before explaining it. CDS, these are the same. The short screeners, POSIT, MMS, GainSS, and EPIC. These are all short screeners, and they are the same as the other modules: can view, can edit, can delete. Any questions? Once you have made any changes, you want to click Save. Notice that it doesn't take, oh, sorry, this one actually takes me back to here. If I were to want to get out of here, I can click Cancel. That's a little bit confusing because you think you're canceling what you've just done. But once you've saved in the user privileges, it's saved. So clicking Cancel just takes you back a menu. If I wanted to edit, as an administrator, if I wanted to edit somebody else's account, for example, I can go to the edit, or sorry, I can go to the search user. This is where I can actually pull up another account and then do the same thing I did to my own account, but with theirs. If I knew the user ID, I could type that in. If I didn't, I could type in the name, first or last or both. I can search on any of these fields, click search. I don't find anybody, so I could either click add a new user, or I'm going to go back and let's just say anybody in site 1. Who have I got? In the beginning, in the very beginning of Catalyst, users used to be attached to a site. It's still part of the setup, so when you're searching for a user, I think now automatically they're site 01, but really it doesn't change anything in terms of their access and how things work. So just understand that it exists in terms of sites in the background, but it doesn't do anything. So you can see all the active accounts. The inactive accounts are no. I can delete accounts this way. There are several pages because this is a test database. So let's say I wanted to edit, for example, Deb's account. So I click on her user ID, comes up, and then I go to user privileges, and I can give her access to other programs, for example. Maybe I've just added some programs. I scroll down, and then I click save. If I wanted to edit anything on the main screen, I believe I have to type in my admin password, and then I can save. The other piece is adding a new user, so I would need a user ID. So there are some restrictions, but let's say it was for a new person that joined us. So I would have to give her a password. And then I confirm that. And there are rules, business rules around what it can be. It's written in a KB somewhere. I don't have it memorized, but I think it's like a minimum of 8 or 9 letters, a symbol, and a number. I could be wrong. Now, here's where I decide, is this a new user? Is this an agency administrator? I'm going to create a user, and then I have to put an email. I'm going to leave that blank. Obviously, I'm going to delete this, but English, no expiry, and then save. I don't need that for my passwords. Now, once I've saved it, I go to user privileges, and this is where I'd have to add in everything that I want this person to be able to do. So it's all blank, and with all of these activities and programs, it's a lot. Notice you can also use the tab button, and oops. And the space bar to toggle. It's kind of a way to do it quickly if you're doing a whole bunch, but yeah, I'm not actually going to save this. It's just me demonstrating. Yeah, that's the user profile piece. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to the admin stuff. Okay, so from wherever we are in Catalyst, we can access the admin menu, and I'm going to go to administration. So we've got a few different options here. The agency list. So this is a list of all of our participating agencies. Not really anything to do in here, but you can just see a list. It's almost like a report. Doesn't really access or do anything. You can see the sites as well. So for example, we've got 10085, and they've got a whole bunch of sites. I think they're schools. Yeah, so that's what that one is. It doesn't really do much. I never use it, but pointing it out. I'm going to go back to admin menu and then agency program list. So keeping in mind, I'm logged in as if I'm an agency. This is not a working site for Datus. We do have that. That's the DATIS site where we can go in, we can run internal reports, and we can do some internal management. This is as if I'm an agency. So right now I've gone to agency program list, and I can actually see all of my programs, and I can go in, see what's going on with each of those programs by clicking on it. But I can't add a program that's not, or I can't add a program to my own database that's linked to a provincial service category. It's a little bit confusing because in the old days we used to say a funded program. It's gotten a little gray now where things are funded. It's just not part of the funding stream that we want to report on. So we still refer to it as funded, but keep in mind that a lot of agencies will say, oh, it's funded, but not part of the funding stream that we're looking to send to the ministry. If it is part of that funding stream, then we have to set that up for them. We have to attach the provincial service category and a functional center that goes with that, and that's something we do on the admin side.
Laura, is there a knowledge base article or like a reference for us to know which are the funded programs?
No, that's what Deb's for. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's really complicated. It's from the agency. They're basically going to know what they're expected to report on. It's in their MSAW, but it gets gray, and that's where we come in trying to tease through an understanding. So they should be the source for that information, but we're finding there's a lot of gray areas, and we have to kind of explain it to them and go to the ministry and kind of tease through stuff occasionally.
Okay.
Probably not the best answer, but yeah.
It's the best. It is the best answer. Refer all questions to Deb.
I know. No, and that's why we do keep the Tier 2 EST on any additional program setup, because there's just always that, okay, let's make sure this is funded. Let's make sure this makes sense. Let's make sure they understand what they're getting into and setting up here. I felt like there was another question. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is there data staff on this page?
What do you mean?
Like the email address.
Oh, that's old.
Is there any way we can change that?
That would be Tier 1. Tech would have to go in and edit this screen.
And this is it's under administration agency program list, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So administration,
shows data
agency, sorry, not agency, sorry. Yeah, agency program list, and then you go into the actual program. I think
Like
they're all going to have the same screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just wondering, because we kept always sort of wondering why emails were coming there. And I guess this is...
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't been in the screen in 50 years. So,
yeah, well, I've never seen this one before. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just screenshot.
Could you send me that as well, please, Lara?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's actually cancel it here. But if I wanted to edit anything, a description, I can't change the program name or any of the stuff set up by Datus, essentially. Like, remember, I'm an agency right now. I can change the number of beds. The activity log is already set, and the follow-up period I can change. None of that really has a whole bunch of implication. It's the stuff they can't change that is important, and that's why it's locked out. I'm going to cancel this. But if there was let me just see if there's one here without. Yeah, so you can see at the end, the programs that have no provincial service category, they have more access to editing. So they can change the functional center. They can't change the name once it's been set. They can change program type, using the activity log or not. These are more in their control. Anything that's not linked to a provincial service category is essentially not considered funding or funded, and they can do whatever they want with it. Cancel that. I'm going to go back. Actually, let me go back in agency program list. I'm going to add a program. So you can see I can put in whatever functional center I want, and I can call it whatever I want. If I don't put a program name in French, it will default to whatever I have here. But if I have an agency that is running bilingual, so some people are set up in English, some are in French, then I may want to put something in French here that those people operating in French will see. Same for a program description. I can type whatever I want for the description. If I don't put anything in the French one, it will default. If I wanted it to show differently in French, I could add that. The program type, so is it gambling, is it substance abuse, or WMS? We need to indicate that. Using the activity log for time calculation, I think most of you know what I mean by that, but if you don't, I'll just say a little bit. When we get into the service summary for programs, if you don't have this checked off, you'll need to manually type in how much service was given to that client in that program. 99% of the time, we will ask, they put the activity log on. So what happens is they have to enter activities into the activity log so that it pulls that service summary automatically. But if they don't enter anything in the activity log, they can't close that program because there'd be no service allocated. But it's how we like to operate, but some agencies are still not using the activity log, so they may not have that selected. Number of beds, not important. If they want to use it, they can. And the follow-up period needs, again, not important, but if they want to use it, they can. And then save. So that becomes a program in this particular database. Whoops.
Laura, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The number of follow-up in weeks, what does that mean? What does follow-up mean?
Nothing. It's an indicator for them if they ever wanted to follow up with the client after the program is closed. It doesn't do anything, and it doesn't.
Okay.
It has zero impact. So I don't even know why it's still there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, from your perspective, from Connex, I'm sure you're thinking so many things, but no, there's nothing fancy about it. Okay, so that's setting up of a program. But of course, if we were creating a program for an agency, it's totally different. That's done through a different database. And I've actually done a little video on that, but I don't want to talk about that right now. That's separate. But this is more from an agency side, how they would manage or set up programs. So let's go back to the admin menu. And now we're going to go to waitlist by program setup. So if they've opted in to use the waitlist, they can come in here and they can decide for each program they have. So keeping in mind, this is our test database. There's so many programs. Hopefully they'll only have 5 or 6. And then they can decide client waits, but Catalyst waitlist is not used. They can put that in. Client waits or client does not wait. So they can indicate how their waitlist will be set up. Once you do anything, you click save, and then I can cancel to get out. Agency activity list. So this is where they can add more activities. Those are the things we saw in the privilege section of the user profile, and these are what show up in the activity log. So it's important, like I said, to understand the activity type you're setting up, but in terms of the activity name, it can be anything. So let's say we want to add an activity, so I have to decide which kind. So I'm going to say it's a direct face-to-face, and what's it called? Counseling. I mean, I'm sure there's a million of them in here. Activity name in French, same thing. If I don't put anything, it'll default, and the same for descriptions. I can put one or not. If I wanted to do a default duration, what happens is in the activity log, it defaults to whatever that is. So if we know most of our counseling sessions are 50 minutes, 50, I could put that in here and save it. So I'll just say save that. And now it has been added. But again, until anybody has privileges to that particular activity, it won't be available in the selection list. That is activities. And then I'm going to go back to administration and agency preferences. So this is where we can make a few different changes. So case notes, I think we talked a little bit about it. You can change the grace period for how long the agency has to edit a case note after its creation. Again, 72 hours is recommended, but some orgs have chosen to open this up a bit. Anybody who was on the training the other day, we saw it was a ridiculous value. I changed it to 72. I'm sure Dan's probably like, why can't I edit a case note? And then there are templates you can create for case notes. So that's a yes or no in the preferences. And then if you had created one, basically you add it here and then it's available when you're writing a case note. Sorting admissions programs. So this is just a preference, how you want your admission programs to be sorted. Case notes table, number of rows. So if you're an agency that creates a ton of case notes, you may want to truncate that by using this value here. CDS, this is not available. Epic, not available. I think this has to do with being turned on at the central database level. So that would be Dan would have to go in and turn on the availability for these short screeners in this database. E-referrals can receive e-referrals. So we haven't talked about e-referrals, I don't think, but if an agency wants to be able to participate in sending and receiving e-referrals, they would have to turn this on. What happens is they're then shown in the selection list from another organization to make e-referrals to. That's that preference. So the GAIN short screener, again, not turned on, MMS not turned on. And then I'm not sure what all of the OCAN selection items are. Again, this is something that's happening at the central database. These are not turned on. Not that familiar with what the OCAN items are. Sorry, guys. OPOC can use OPOC. Again, not turned on, and the POSIT short screener is not on. Password reset monitor. So if we were to, I don't even know if this is not the same as the user profile. So I think that this is the availability of somebody at the organization, an administrator, to assist with password reset. I don't know if Nida or Oba, you guys have any more information on that, but I've never used this.
Yeah, I have no idea actually.
No,
I
okay.
have never
I
used
would
it.
assume the same.
I'm gonna take a screenshot and just ask Dan about it because I don't know why that's there. Yeah, sorry if I'm the blind leading the blind here, but that's something fairly new that I've never used. And then the waitlist preference, that's if you wanted to allow discharges for clients active on the waitlist, you could say yes or no. I don't know if you've noticed in a couple of the screens, a couple of the newer modules that were created in Catalyst, you have the option of changing the theme. It doesn't do anything, but it's just the visual. I wanted to see how it looked. Yeah, no big deal. Once I've decided on my preferences, any edits I made, I click save, and you see I get success, it's been saved, and then cancel takes me back out. And then selection list maintenance is actually a little more involved. So I click on that, and you can see I have access to all of the different selection lists in Catalyst that I'm allowed to populate, me being an agency. So you can see the screen or the module that the selection list is from, and the name of that selection list, and then the items that have been added or that are available so far. So for example, on the admission information, there is a selection list called drug prescribed. If I wanted to change that list, I can go here, I click on it, and then you can see everything that's already on here. Maybe I don't like a couple of these, so I'm going to delete them or inactivate them. So that's an important distinction. You're never really deleting something from a database, you're inactivating it. This is for historical reasons. So it will show on reports. So for example, if I had misspelled something and I wanted to inactivate it and then I want to re-add it, it's going to be a separate item. The system isn't smart enough to know that I misspelled antidepressant and I've put it in correctly, and now that's the same item. It's not the same item, it's a new item. They won't be merged in reports. It's just something to keep in mind. So if I wanted to inactivate an item, I select it and then I scroll down and I click save. So those will no longer be available in that selection list on the admission information screen for drugs prescribed. If I wanted to add one, I can put a French name too, but I'm just going to click add. And then I still have to click save. So I've added, so I can go through and put 50 different items in by adding. Until I save though, they don't become part of that list. So then you can see my addition is here. And then I've already saved, and now I'm going to click cancel, and it brings me back here. So I could continue this process for any of these selection lists on the different screens throughout Catalyst. Any questions on that one? Nope. Okay, I will keep going. Quick, go back.
Sorry, Laura, it's Nicole. I just want to verify. Those lists that are on that screen are in the admission info when you're choosing the referral source or something and it's specific to that organization. This is where they come and do that.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so it's not necessarily all the admission screen. You can see here the different screens that they're applying to.
Right. Okay.
And then that's the name of the list on the screen, or the name of the field. Okay, I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to go to customization. So Catalyst has the ability to allow users or organizations to add custom fields to just about any screen in the system. So I click on custom fields, and then you can see the different screens that are available. I just want people to understand that the addition of a custom screen doesn't do anything in terms of reporting or real functionality. It's information available essentially to anybody looking at the screen. There are means to export these screens out, including the custom fields, so that they can do some work to report, but basically those are the data downloads. So the only way really to report on a custom field is through the data downloads, and then they'd have to do some manipulation to really make that work. The real value, or the real intended value of the custom screen, was more on-screen information. So just keep that in mind. So let's say on the, so we have a question?
What is the difference between the custom field and the previous where we were looking at the selection lists? To me, it seems like the same thing.
Well, the selection lists do have reports connected to them. They are designed into existing reports, and
Okay.
the agencies have access to that information that way.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Makes
You're
sense.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add a custom field to the admission information screen. I click on admission information, and you can see the ones that already exist. So I could certainly edit anything there, or I could do new selection list, new text field. So let's say I wanted the selection list. I click on that, and again, I have the ability to indicate the order that I want that selection list to, or that item in the selection list to appear. So let's say I'm going to just call this item 1, and same for French. If I wanted to add anything, I could. And then, oh, sorry, this is the label. This is the label. Let's say large list, and then the new item would be item 1, and then I click add, and then I'm going to say item 2, and I click add. So I'm populating a selection list for them to choose from. And you can see here, we've got them here. Now the field order has to do with the actual field, not the list item. So they're going to populate in the order I put them in. But the field order, if I had 5 different custom fields, I could manipulate how they appear on the screen by changing this value. So once I've created it, I click save, and then I've got my selection list that will appear on the admission information. If I change my mind and I wanted to remove it, I click on here and click delete. I have the ability to add a text field as well, and then there are different types of text fields. So again, I've got the field order, the label, call this Laura's text. And then if there's a default value, I could put that in so they're not having to type anything unless it's different than the default. And then the field type, I could be any text, so I can basically type whatever, a numeric value, text area, or a date. So some people may want to put a date for whatever reason. You know, they're capturing something. Again, not overly valuable in terms of a reporting, but there are certain agencies that want to be able to see stuff about a client on screen, and this is how they would get that. Any questions about that? You guys are so easy. Okay, good. Let's go back to administration. So this is the fun one, the participating agency selection list for outgoing referrals. So it is as it says, but let's explain what that means. So I click on it, and I'll just point out that the selection list, or the participating agencies, are set up by site. It's a little bit confusing, but there was a reason for that in the beginning, and now things have evolved. But it still shows the participating agencies by site. So Westover, for example, has however many sites, and so they are all listed here. If I want to have them available to me, basically I'm creating a short list of participating agencies that I will refer to. So in the referrals page, the outgoing referrals page, you have the ability to refer to an existing, or sorry, a participating agency, basically one of their sites. You're referring to one of their sites. This is where you would populate that. So you can see at the bottom what I have shortlisted for my agency to be able to refer to. Maybe there is a site at Westover that I want to be, well, I don't think I have one here. Maybe I want to refer to the Bruce Aftercare site. I double click. Oh, it is already on there. So double click on the Oakville Recovery Support, and then it should populate over here. Yes, so that's here. Once I've added anything I want to add, or even removed, maybe I want to remove this one. I double click it and it comes off of the selected list, and then I click save. So that's the way to control basically that list appearing in the outgoing referrals screen. That one might be a little complicated. Any questions on that one?
I just I'm struggling with the purpose. Like what would be the definition of an participating agency for outgoing referral?
So somebody that reports to Datus is participating.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. I guess it's just in my head. I'd be like, would hospitals not be like an automatic, like if you were stepping up someone's care? But I don't think it's as linked as that based on what we're looking at.
No, let's just maybe go back to, I'm going to just cancel out of here, and then I'm going to go back to the referrals screen. So just let me jump through a couple of hoops. Let's say I've got a client that is receiving service and I want to refer them out. So I go to referrals. Keeping in mind, I can make an electronic referral, and this is also associated to that short list we just created. So you can only make electronic referrals to participating agencies, and they have to be in your list. The ones that are grayed out are not accepting e-referrals. That's just an FYI. But I'm not going to see all of the agencies participating here. I'm only going to see the ones on my short list. So that's connected. So I just want to point that out. But let's say I'm not doing any referral. Going back to your question, Kate, I'm going to go to add a referral. And then I've got the option here to refer to a participating agency. It's defaulted, but as soon as I select something else, it changes my selection. But I'm going to refer to a participating agency site. That's what's listed here, that short list that I created. So that one, that Oakville Recovery Support, is here. So I'm essentially referring to another agency that reports to Datus. I think there may be a little confusion. Why are we differentiating between somebody that reports to Datus and somebody that doesn't? I don't have an answer for you. This was set up 20 years ago. They do want to know the provincial service category that they are referring to. I don't know what theirs is, but let's just say it was a residential treatment service, and that data gets collected that way. I think it's a little archaic in terms of necessity, but this is the way it's still set up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess like I would struggle with what is the and like no disrespect to how this was set up. It's just what is the value
right
in understanding this movement of people through the system if you're basically just looking.
I don't know, and it's a good question, and I do think referrals needs to be completely overhauled. This is really limiting because of the back end design and reports and whatnot. It's not a simple fix. This is the way it is right now.
Okay, sure. I mean, yeah, that's obviously there was a reason at that time. So
yes.
Laura, I have a question about this. Is this going to send a referral to Westover?
I can't hear you, Nicole. Sorry. Pardon?
So is this going to send a referral to Westover, or are we just recording it outside of this program? We have sent a referral there.
This is just recording it for our own information, and it goes to the ministry in terms of reporting. But if I wanted to send something to Westover, I would go like this. Make an electronic referral, and then I click add an e-referral, and then there's a whole process that goes with the e-referral, and client has to accept or approve that I do this, and then I can send attachments. Westover will get a notice, hey, database 0004 wants to refer somebody to you, do you accept this client? Until they accept them, though, they can't actually see any attachments because they don't really know anything about the client, so it's hard to accept, but this is the design right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to send them.
I think also, I mean, that it is, I can understand when you're saying that it's an archaic system, but I think the value in just recording the referrals and where you've actually sent them, that is the value to know where you've been sending your clients.
Are you telling me or are you asking me? Sorry, I'm not sure.
No, I think that probably like that from a service provider to know where you're sending your clients.
Yes.
That would be, I think that's the value.
Yes. You hear that, Kate?
yeah,
I think
no,
there go ahead.
I definitely see that. It's just if you're looking at it from a system perspective to see how people are moving, like I think it should open up to where are you referring your client, period, not just where are you referring your client within Datus agencies.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's probably more complicated to set that up, I assume.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think those are good discussions that we need to have when we're in a position to actually make those changes, for sure. That's it from the admin side. Like I said, I didn't think we'd take a whole bunch of time, but do you guys have any questions or anything you want me to show you right now?
Laura, for me to repeat what I understood. So when I'm looking at the participation agency selection list for outgoing referrals, first box where it says participating agencies sites are all the agencies that are in Catalyst.
Yes, exactly.
In the second box, selected agencies is what they select to see on their referral screen.
You got it.
And on the referral screen, they will see the name of the agency, but not Connex number.
Is that true? Yes, I think you're right. That's a good point. I never even noticed that, but let me just go back and see that. Right, that's a good point.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
These are listed alphabetically. There's no Connex number showing. It's kind of funny, but yes, that's how
Okay.
it's done. And this is whatever the legal entity name they gave us in terms of when we set it up in the central database. So it's an important thing because some people might not know it as Hope Place. They might think of it as something else. I don't know. Especially sites, because some of the sites get really specific names and people don't recognize them. So it's a good point.
Okay. Thank you. It's
You're
a lot
welcome.
to go through. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, and I totally appreciate that. And if you want to review anything, let me know. Everybody's good? Okay, I'm calling it. That's it for today. Class dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Chief.
guys are
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
Thank
welcome.
you.
I'll stop the record. All right, you're very welcome. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.